right.
He got in there, and they thought he was horsing around and playing, and he was actually drowning. And
George R. did too.
How old was Uncle Joe then?
We was as a family there, Ma and Pa and all of us. And who was it? Pa got him out,
Pa got him out, yeah.
How old was he?
He was very young. I'd say 6 or 7 years old at the most. And same thing happened to me. I dove in a creek one time, and I didn't think it was deep. And when I finally tried to touch bottom, I couldn't touch bottom. And I started going down, and Andy Sedlock saved me. He seen me, and of course, he was tall. He could just walk over and grab me, and he pulled me in. But then later, I learned to swim at #1 pond where Josie almost drowned.
I almost drowned in #1 pond. I was on a school picnic. I was skinny as a rail. And they had a bridge, and there was 2 boards missing about that wide. And we was walking in a single file down this small little bridge across there.
It was a track that the rail cars went on, a narrow gauge track.
And I slipped between those 2 boards and fell in. And I was hanging on to my lunch because I wanted to have my lunch if somebody saved me. I can remember seeing somebody off there swimming, and I said, I hope they find me and save me. And Aurora Barra, and I thought of the name of who it was. Now I can't think of it. The guy. They grabbed me by the hair and pulled me out. I was going down for the 3rd time. And they saved me.
Well, and we used to go in the summertime when we were kids. We'd swim every day, sometimes twice a day. We'd go in the morning and then in the afternoon. And swam at the #1 pond. In the wintertime, we used to go skating on a pond. And we used to go skiing.
Ice hockey.
Remember, Bob, how we used to ski with those barrel hoops?
Yeah.
We had no skis, so we get barrel hoops.
And then we get a tin.
Make a toboggan, you know.
Make a toboggan right out of a tin, you know, the long bar thins.
Yeah. Turn up the end and then put a piece of wire on it to guide it, and down we'd go. Or these wooden barrel staves, not the staves. You put a strap over them.
Strap them on.
And sand them and then wax them. And I could remember, Bob, you remember when you got knocked cold on that one? Me and you went by Antonacci's there. I went first down the hill, and there was a ditch on the bottom, and I flew right over it. When Bob come down, he was heavier than I was, and he hit that ditch, and he went upside down and knocked him cold. And I didn't know what to do, and it was a good thing Roger Antonacci came there, and he pulled you up, and finally you started getting your wind again.
And when we was kids, we fought like cats and dogs.
You and Joe, not all of us.
Yeah, well, if there was a fight going on and Joe was chasing me, you 2 would help him. It was me against 3.
Yeah.
Boy, we had a lot of fights, I'll tell you.
Joe and you were the champion fighters.
He chased me around the house and I got a lead on him, so I ran in the kitchen and I locked the door. And he hit that door and he cracked that door all the way across. When we sold that house, that door was still on there with that crack in it.
Yeah.
Which house?
Ma's house. That back door still had that crack that we made all the way across it. And then my mother was one of the first ones, and my dad, to get a Kalamazoo stove that looked like a Victrola. It was brown, real nice. Everybody else had those black stoves.
This had a big liner on it, and it was about 3 foot, 3 foot square. Yeah. The stove was on the inside, and it had this liner.
A nice brown, shiny. My dad was emptying the ashes underneath, and he left the door open to take the ash pit out. And Joe started fighting with me, and we start running around the rooms, and we knocked the door right off of that brand new stove.
Never did get fixed either.
Never did. Another time we had a big round table, dining room table, in the living room. And Joe started chasing me again. I was running around the table, dining room table, running around, and he kept edging the table, and edging the table, and finally he edged the table clear through the window.
Didn't you get tied to a tree one time?
I got tied to a tree because Ma blamed me for always starting all the fights. So she tied me to the tree. And by golly, them guys, Aldo and Bob and Dolly, they taught me. They knew just how far that rope would go that I was tied with. And they'd get right on the outskirts and taunt me all day long. I'll never forget that.
I don't remember none of that.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I do.
I could remember Bob and I playing in a hayloft,
Oh, yeah, I
and
remember
he
that.
had these big heavy clawhoppers with a cleat like a horseshoe on the heel.
Yeah.
And I took a somersault in the hay, and he'd come right back over the top and cut my head in two.
Yeah.
I can
Boy,
remember.
I got scared that time. I
Boy,
thought I killed you.
yeah.
And my mom used to go to town, and she would come down 8th Street. You know, ride to school, because she knew we'd be fighting and
Every
chasing.
day she had to go uptown because we had no refrigerator,
Yeah.
and she'd have to buy
And
stuff for the bucket. And
sure enough, by the time she got to that corner, we was chasing one another and fighting like heck. And she'd start hollering from the corner, Bo, Josie, Aldo, Joe. And we was hitting one another and
I couldn't-
ready to kill one another.
You know what Mary Leone was telling me, which I remember yet? Mom used to store the cookies on top of that thing we had in the kitchen cabinet, and we knocked that over.
Oh, I did one time.
Yeah.
And I was holding the cover with all the dishes and everything, and
Yeah.
they were all falling down on top of me, and I almost got killed. And I was trying to hold that cover up. Ma finally came in the house and saved me. She
That's what Mary Leone was telling me.
yeah, that happened. Happened to me. I
You
know.
probably told her at the store where you worked
Yeah.
with her.
And one time, talking about Mom coming from the store, we were on that back porch, and you and Bob and Josie were tickling me. You remember that?
No.
And there was that banister,
Yeah.
and I couldn't stop laughing. I was tickling all the time, and I could hear Mom hollering, and all of a sudden, somehow I fell over on my head, and I split my head open from the top of that banister.
Ali Franconi split my head open, threw something up in the tree, and we was in McKelly's, by that tree by McKelly's, and I remember that I got hurt there.
Well, Mom did a lot of work too. Look at all the canning with the big garden we
in
had.
the summertime I used to hate summertime.
We
5
can-
bushels of peaches we'd can, all them string beans. We'd kill a veal
tomatoes,
and can the veal. And one
veal, can actually butcher a calf and can the veal.
and can all that meat.
And then mushrooms, you go for mushrooms and can
Blackberries.
blackberry, and
to
they
make
jelly,
jelly.
and they jelly. And
we'd make so much jelly we'd have to destroy it. Couldn't eat it all. We'd have to feed it to the chickens to put the new jelly in the jars.
I bet something that you'll never remember is, you remember when Pa used to put whiskey, when we used to put those cucumbery
Right,
things
yeah.
in there? Well, the jar was empty of the whiskey, and we fed it to the chickens, and we got all the chickens drunk. And they was falling down and running around in the chicken yard.
It used to be a 2-quart jar with, it looked like cucumbers in there.
Yeah.
It was some kind of a gourd or something.
A gourd. They used to put it in
That
for
was when
medicine.
you got a stomach ache, you took a shot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember when we fed that to the
Yeah.
chickens, and they all got drunk, and they was falling down, and they was wobbling, they were really drunk. We had the biggest kick out of that, but we got hell for it.
Then we used to play a game where you threw a brick and somebody tried to hit it. You remember that?
Yeah.
And if you hit the brick, then you had to carry the guy to the next, up to that brick, so you get a ride, you know, on his back. Bob and Joe were playing in the yard, and I come around the corner, and boom, brick hit me right on top of the head. Then another time, you remember those carbide lids you had to peel off before you got to the regular
Carbine?
carbide thing that unscrewed?
Yeah, yeah.
There, you pull that piece of tin off of there. And I was leaving the house, and I was on a road. Joe threw that thing like a sailed it and hit me right between the eyes with it, right through here. It cut me. When I used to get cut bald headed, I had nothing but scars on my head. All over.
I give you a good one when
The
I
biggest one was the one Bob put right here.
Boy,
He gave me half
Remember
a line here.
one time on that
Still
porch,
there.
back porch, Ma couldn't understand American too good, and you said something, and it wasn't a bad word, but Ma thought you cussed. She took the shoe that you went to the barn with, you know, with them heavy shoes.
So cool.
Yeah, and he hit you in the mouth and knocked one or two of your teeth out.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll ever remember this story, Bob. You and I were coming home with Mom and Paul. And between the corner and to the house, we started horsing around, running and horsing around. And just before we got home, he hit me in the gut. And I'd been running, and he almost knocked me out. And Paul seen what went on, and he come up and he slapped him in the ear, and you had a boil or something in your ear. And boy, oh boy, you start crying, and then he felt real bad about it because he didn't realize you had that sore in your ear. I'll always remember that.
And what I'll remember is behind the kitchen stove, Bob, sick as a dog, he had smoked one of Pa's Italian stogie cigars. And he crawled back there, he's about ready to die. He was so sick. Ma felt so sorry, she was trying to get him out and to take care of him, and she smelled his breath. He got a whipping instead of getting help.
Yeah, days
I used to fall asleep behind that stove all the time.
yeah. That was
That was a good place to hide when
Right.
you was ready to get a strapping, because he couldn't reach you.
I used to always go behind the stove too and hide out behind the stove.
But I'll never forget that time when he smoked his first stogie cigar, Tuscany, those Tuscany Italian
One
cigars.
time it was Kevy and me, I think Sipes, Louis Turkle, and smoking a cigar at the stogies. I went in the house and got him, and Pa come home, you know. We were trying to hide him, but he knew. He said, well, these guys want to smoke, especially to me. He said, go ahead, take a deep puff. And he was showing me how to, boy, did I get sick that time too. He said, if you want to smoke, go ahead. I couldn't even smell that damn tobacco for a long time after that.
I want to tell a story, but I don't think we want to put it on there.
Why
So
not?
shut it off. No, because you might not want it on.
No, he could blank it out later.
No, I can't blank it out later. Wait a minute.
Brother Joe, they used to call him coffee cake because all he liked was donuts and coffee cakes. And in the winter time, we'd be sitting around at home. He said, let's go down to Vista Baker and get a dime's worth of stale donuts. And we'd go down there about 8 o'clock, and they were already baking the new donuts for the next day. So we'd get that day's donuts, and they'd usually give us about 13 donuts for a dime.
Baker's dozen for a dime.
We'd put them in the stove, in the oven, and then we'd eat those donuts. And he had a craving for donuts until the day he died. He always liked donuts.
He always liked sweets.
Always liked sweets.
Well, and we didn't get a lot of sweets. And Ma used to hide what she bought for the bucket for Pa on top of the cabinets and stuff like
And
that.
that's why you wrecked it.
And so anyhow, I used to always feel that she was partial to the boys and against me. She used to go, and the only one that she could tempt this way was Joe. She'd say, Joe, get up and milk the cows. I got some cake left over from the bucket. You'll be the first one to eat, and you'll get the cake. I wait till Joe went to the barn, and I'd get up and I'd eat the cake. And when he'd come back, there'd be no cake left for him. He'd get madder than hell.
Bob, why don't you tell him about your experience when you went on a bum when you were 14 years old? You and Nick Agnish.
Who?
When I was a sophomore in high school, me and two friends, Nick Agnish and John Homey, we went on a bum by hopping trains.
Chicago.
First we went to Chicago to see the 1933 World's Fair. And we hung around inside the fair and seen everything there was by sleeping in the fairgrounds. Then later, we took off for the southern states. We went through by riding trains all the way down
Freight trains.
yeah, through freight trains. We went through Mississippi down to New Orleans. And one of the sights we used to see in New Orleans was these guys along the ocean front picking fish heads out of garbage cans to take home to eat because it was during the height of the Depression. And that kind of, you know, we'd never seen that before, and that kind of stunned us for a while.
I'm sure that Bobby and Terry and I would probably all ask the same question, but how did you get permission to do this? Noni let you do this and Grandpa, or you just took off?
Well, we just took off. He told him we were going to Chicago.
So how long were you gone? How much
Well,
time?
about a month altogether or more.
The next card we got a card from Chicago, I remember. And the next card we got was from New Orleans. And he was working on unloading a banana boat to make some money.
We did that, yeah.
He was only 14 years old.
Yeah.
We unloaded the banana boat, we made a little money. But we never starved, we always,
We went
the
to
East
house to
Side
house.
Gang, we went house to house into the wealthy neighborhoods. They said, we're on our way home, we have to go to school. And almost everybody helped us, you know, give us something to eat.
Didn't you
Or we'd do a little yard work for them, they'd fix the dinner for us. And we didn't starve, it was, I guess we just grew up that way. That East Side Gang we hang around, nobody was bashful or afraid, you know. We've been together for so many years.
Then tell him about how you used to go to Springfield or Bando just to steal watermelons.
Well, yes, the East Side Gang, which we all had nicknames. You want to hear some of the nicknames?
Go for it.
I got a list of them. I wrote them down. Let me get my glasses.
Okay. That won't hurt anything. I can pause it right
There were, these are
Put your feet down.
these are friends
That's
of
fine.
me and Aldo and my brother Joe. There was Wabs, Maggie, and Yorgi, and Ditchko. That was one nicknames of one Czar family. And then there was Wendy, Danny, and his brother Dapper. He ran the Taro's Ballroom when we were young. We used to go dancing there. And there was Dolly, my brother. My name was Tiny or John Brown, and Oz was Aldo. And then there was Soak, Smiley, Froggy, Sags, Duds, Jinx, Chippy, Kebby, Bosco, Kinky, Yunks, Sheik, Iggy, Kai, Blackie, and Eads. Those were most of the East Siders we grew up with. We played ball together, we played football together, went fishing together, hunting together,
Got into mischief together.
went to dancing, and went cabareting together. Always 2 or 3 carloads. And nothing but fun guys. Everybody, I don't think there'll ever be a bunch of guys that had as much fun as we did in a lifetime. And we did everything together. Even now we get together and we talk and bum around together even now, but there's only about 7 or 8 of us left. Most of them are dead. But anyway, we're talking about going on a road again. Well, we went on the road again.
Yeah, tell them about the second trip.
Kebby and the Ebbets, that was another good friend of ours.
But it all started off.
And me.
Well, wait a minute. It started off from Banal. They were going to go pick potatoes.
Gang of us.
Yeah, that was the excuse they gave their fathers. They would go pick potatoes in somewhere in Missouri, was it? Remember?
Yeah, Missouri.
And
But a whole carload of us left,
yeah,
about 15
20,
of it.
Yeah, 15 or so left on the same freight.
And they could only have so much money.
They didn't have no money.
No money.
$2.
I had a couple dollars.
Well, anyhow, the way it ended up, they all came home except. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, me, Kebby, our cousin Kebby Leone, and Yevis McCullough, a good friend, who used to live in Chicago later on together. Well, we went all the way to the West Coast. And we wanted to see all these things that some of the other guys had been on bum were telling us about, you know. We were going through, well, we stopped in these big Kansas wheat fields and we sampled the grain, you know, by crushing it and blowing it and eating it, probably because we were hungry. And then later on, in Colorado, we went over that big bridge, the highest bridge in the world, just to see what it was. And they told us about the Denver and Rio Grande that goes through that most picturesque valley in the world, you know. The railroad that hangs over the river on beams even, you know.
Colorado River.
Yeah. No, the Arkansas River.
Oh, Arkansas River.
Yeah. And we did that, then we'd stop in the mountains. And the best peaches I ever ate was in these mountain meadows. Them good peaches, huge peaches. And watermelons, them old-fashioned long green ripe watermelons, they were sweet. Of course, we were young, and that tasted like a best meal we ever had. And then we spent in a mountain camp, lumberjacks. We stood there for about a week doing dishes, and they fed us all these great big good meals till we got tired of living there with these guys, and then we took off for California. In California, we bummed on these trains, and these were the days when the whole families traveled on the trains. Children and mothers and fathers. It was the days of the Okies when they all moved.
Boxcars, they traveled in.
Yeah, they traveled in the.
On top of boxcars.
Yeah, like freight, like army troop trains. Actually, when we got in California, the freight train would stop, and they had an announcer. So-and-so train is leaving for the grape orchards in Fresno. So-and-so is going to Maryville for the oranges. So-and-so is going up north for the lettuce harvest, you know. And all these, and the train would stop, and all these families would get on because that's the way in them days they made their money by shipping fruit. If nobody picked it, then the railroads couldn't make no money. And we had some great big meals with these different families. Everybody go out and move and get eats, and they would cook up big mulligan stews. Everybody pitched in, everybody shared. And then we wound up in the mountains there by San Bernardino, up in the, where we had a boys' camp. And we spent the rest of the summer there, just hanging around, eating good and doing a little cleanup work. And then we, on the way back, well, we caught high-speed trains coming back. Well, actually, some of them trains was what they called express fruit train, where they even the passenger trains got out of the way. And we were riding the back end, and this train wouldn't even stop for water. It would scoop the water between the rails. There was no ties in the middle, and the water would be scooped up and they shoot over into the tank, and we were right there. We like to drown, get all soaked. And then later on, while we hit going over that, what is that pass in Nevada? Donner Pass? Yeah. We like to froze to death. So we were by these engines in the roundhouse, and we seen a bundle there with a bunch of blankets. So Kebby and I, we took one big long one. But on the way home, one was always stealing the blanket, so we cut it in half. And then we finally got home in time to go back to high school, because I had to get, my mother wanted me to be sure to get back for school, you know.
Well, how she worried about you.
Yeah, well, I used to write her.
Yeah, not very often, and she prayed and everything, and every bum that ever came to you know, mooching, Ma fed him, because she was hoping somebody would feed you.
Yeah.
She always did. She'd give them a loaf of hot bread and something, and they were really thankful.
But anyway, to get back to all these Eastsiders, like we used to have so much fun together. Aldo knows a lot of stories, and I know some. Some are not so, you know, we got into fights and all that. And Aldo, you tell them what some of the fights you got in at Chippy and them guys.
Oh, well, go ahead. Well, first I wanted to tell about Joe, some of his experience. When he in 1937, he joined the CMTC, which was a Citizens Military Training Camp. It was something like, same as the Army Boot Camp. And it lasted a month. And the following year, in 1938, I went in with a bunch of guys from Bunnell. And you didn't get no pay. You had to hitchhike to St. Louis Jefferson Barracks, and then you had to hitchhike back, and you got $6 travel pay before you come home. But we didn't use that travel pay to ride. We kept that for ourselves. And then when Joe was a sophomore, he went to Chicago. Bob was working in Chicago at that time, and him and Chippy and Muzzy went to Chicago. You forgot Muzzy's nickname down there.
Yeah, Muzzy.
And they were bus boys working in the Thompson restaurants for $6 a week plus one meal.
Did they get tips though?
No, they were bus boys, just pick up the dishes. And now $6 doesn't sound like much, but it was, you know, you could get a place pretty cheap then. And one time they got one of these hotel rooms that paid about 50 cents a night. And him and Chippy went up there to sleep, and there was only one bed in this room, so this guy that owned it, he says, I'll bring a bed up from the basement. He brought a bed up by the basement, he put it by the window. And Joe sat on that bed, he was going to use it. But Chippy said, he was fat, and he said, I want to sleep on that bed. So Joe finally let him sleep on that bed. And the next morning, he was just covered with bites. They didn't know what it was. He was red all over. They had bed bugs. And he was bit from one end to the other. And they had to go to the drugstore, and the druggist finally gave him some stuff to put on that, to cure that. So they spent the whole summer in Chicago. Then the following summer, Joe and Chippy and another guy named Tony Triplo went on a bum like Bob did. And they went the northern route, and they went through the northern states and went all the way to Portland, Oregon.
Basically kind of followed Grandpa's route that he went.
Right, he followed the same route, rode the same trains, and I think it was either the Northern Pacific, I guess, is what they rode.
Yeah.
And went through Montana and all the way. And on the way back, they came back through Colorado, through the wheat fields in Colorado, and they all got jobs on farms. These farmers would come in town and ask for help. So one of them went one way and one went the other. They all three got a job. My brother worked on that one farm until the summer ended, and he was well liked over there. He milked the cows and helped the guy do all the work there.
That guy wrote to him for years.
For years, he wanted him to come back. He said he would give him some land that he could rent. Yeah. They were farming about 3,000 acres. The dad owned 2,000, and he was leasing. The son was leasing 1,000. He would work 20 hours a day. The son would.
They wanted him
20
back.
hours a day.
They wanted him back.
Yeah, they wanted him to come back, but he never did.
They kept writing. They really liked him.
Then he came back. Him and Chippy came back together. They got split up coming back, and him and Chip came back together. And then that was between his junior and senior year. And then after his senior year, Joe joined the the CCCs, right after he graduated, and he went to Carlinville in the CC camp. That was a camp that they originated during the Depression to get the kids off the streets. And they'd get $30 a month, and 25 was sent home, and 5 was kept by him, you know. And he stood in there for 6 months, and then he signed over, but he got a chance to go to college with Freddie Wood, and I forget who it was, Babe Wargo or who the other one was. The three of them went down there, and they went down to Tampa University. And they only picked Joe to stay there out of the three. And he started school, and he went about 3 months or so, and that was a non-registered school, and he was the only one there, and I guess he got homesick. He quit and come home. And then from this point, he went to work in Chicago.
But later on, he went to school, didn't he, Mom?
Yeah, after the war, he attended
to
the
Ross.
Ross School of Mines.
When did you write the poem?
I wrote the poem when I graduated from high school and Bob was a senior.
What kind of poem?
The Ship of Life.
The Ship of Life.
Who'd you write that for?
Bob?
Oh, I thought you wrote it for Uncle Joe.
No, I wrote it for Bob. He was a year behind me in school. And I graduated and he was still in school. And he was going to graduate and I wrote that ship.
Well, you might tell him what year you graduated.
I graduated in 1935.
And Bob graduated in 36.
Yeah.
Joe graduated in 39, and I graduated in 41. And,
I can remember part of
41?
that poem.
Yeah.
I thought it was 40.
41. And Joe joined the Navy in June